All right, guys, welcome to the Onelife podcast. My guest today is Andrew. Andrew is a personal trainer, boxing coach, and all about self-mastery. Thank you for being here, man.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Yeah, we're kind of talking self-mastery before we started.
Yeah.
And I feel like I live and breathe that. I feel like habits, discipline is everything to set you up to succeed. And it seems like you're on the exact same page.
Yes. There is a saying, I believe it was Epictetus, the philosopher. He said, "No man is truly free who is not a master of himself."
I like that.
And we live in a free country. And I think those two concepts, we live in a free country, so we're pursuing freedom. But what should predicate freedom, or what actually has to predicate that freedom, is the mastery of yourself. If you're at the mercy of your thoughts, your emotions, your habits, your history, your traumas, then it's going to be really, really difficult for you to pursue the fulfillment of your purpose and your passions.
That could also be your job, debt, relationship.
Exactly. Anything that
too,
you
right?
look at negatively, anything that causes you to pull away from the sense of you are in control of how you respond to the things that happen to you in life. You're not in control of the where you were born, the rules that you have to live by. You're not in control of the family that you have, or a lot of times your physical condition, your genetic situation, whatever the case may be. Those are the things that are completely out of your control. You separate what you can control and what you can't control, and you realize you have control over your response to difficult situations in life.
You read Man's Social Meaning?
I know of the book, but I haven't read
that. That's literally what it's about.
Yeah.
And it's in World War II through concentration camp.
Oh,
it's a really good book. I'm surprised you haven't read it, so you need to read that.
Yeah,
You'll
definitely.
love it. It's exactly what you're talking about.
That's one of the most beautiful situations to look at. Where were in the concentration camps? Where were they laughing? Where were they telling jokes? Where were they drawing pictures? Where were they holding hands? That's the connection that we're actually looking for. The self-expression of positivity in the most difficult of times.
Yeah, that's pretty heavy to get your head around, though, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. Okay, so you have developed your own course.
Correct.
Talk to me about this course. What is the course called?
The course is called Self-Mastery in 90 Days.
I love it.
So I have studied martial arts. I played basketball. I grew up, kind of had a rough childhood growing up, as most of us have. Faced a lot of difficulties when it came to learning how to live life in the way that I wanted, when the only examples that I had were kind of negative examples. When
you mean like influence family?
Exactly. When you have a rough upbringing and you go through a lot, sometimes you can attach yourself to the negative things that happen to you, and you can, for lack of a better term, use those as excuses, as reasons to not pursue what you could be pursuing.
Not knowing any different, because you're governed by your environment.
True.
And unless you read books, step out, talk to somebody, that's all you know. That is your world.
Well, I think we're in a position now where you're constantly being indoctrinated with visuals that
through
say
social and stuff.
Exactly.
I mean, but that hasn't always been around, right? Like, I'm 43.
Yeah.
So I mean, that wasn't around until recently.
Well, you always had newspapers, you always had sports magazines, you always had movie stars. Those are things that have always been around to give us a symbol of kind of what you aspire to be like, the height of what you could achieve.
But could you argue where, say, Dwayne Johnson, right? Like, his story, got kicked out of the football team, but you don't really hear about those stories until social media came out. Like, you wouldn't really come across that in a newspaper article.
That does touch back on the point of how much you're searching.
Okay.
How much are you desiring to get out of your current situation? How much do you want change? Because if that's the case, you're going to look for any. Think about a man who's dehydrated in the desert. You're going to start pulling apart cactuses. You're going to start looking for water.
Yeah.
And so if you're truly thirsty,
how do you become truly thirsty, though? How does someone govern an environment suddenly, like, really want change. So I feel like most of us don't, because until it's too painful.
Well, correct. What I've noticed, and in the development of my Self-Mastery in 90 Days program, I've done quite a bit of research. And what I realize is people will not pursue what they do not feel that they will achieve.
100%.
And so the thing that pairs with that is a lot of people don't think about what they want to pursue or achieve.
Just taking like meditation,
Correct.
taking time for yourself, right?
Correct.
Because we're so busy just...
Exactly. And if you think that your life has been too hard, that you just can't become the type of person that can achieve the success that you desire, you're never going to try to push yourself to achieve that type of success. A lot of it starts with the way that you speak to yourself internally. Your self-talk, your internal dialogue is the starting point for ultimately the cultivation of your desire.
I 100% agree to that.
Because how are you, when you wake up in the morning, I remember waking up in the morning and feeling like, oh my God, here we go again. Like, how many more days are there? Like, I can't do it anymore. I just, anything but life, you know? And if that's the way that I'm thinking, then it's going to be really, really, really difficult for me to identify the paths in life that will help me be successful. It's almost like you're going to attract the frequency that you vibrate on.
Yeah, what you think about is what you become.
You go to a car dealership, you test drive a Mini Cooper. You've never seen a Mini Cooper on the streets before, now you're seeing them left and right, right? If you're in the mindset of, woe is me, I'm suffering, everything is out to get me, the world is attacking
Victim mentality.
Then all you're going to see are things that are attacking you and that are out to get you. Even if they're not, you're going to turn them into monsters when the monsters aren't really there.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful. I didn't do it overnight, but slowly but surely is I don't doubt myself. I don't doubt myself ever. I don't talk negatively to myself or about myself, and I don't procrastinate, and I don't hesitate, and I don't worry about other people's opinions. Just take action.
Correct.
It's my life, do it for me. The only thing I'm going to have when I'm older is regret.
Correct.
And just go for it. Did that happen overnight? Hell no.
Of
that
course.
has been a book after podcast after conversation, learning to, and it can get better.
Correct.
But it's definitely on the right track.
Yeah, 100%.
It goes back to what you're saying, just that self-mastery and just taking responsibility for your own life.
Exactly, and it is a big responsibility to bear. I think what a lot of people don't talk about is the fear of maintaining a successful life. That's terrifying, man. And it's funny, I have mentors and coaches myself, and I think it's unbelievably necessary. You want to kind of sandwich yourself in the middle of learning and coaching or teaching.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I have mentors and coaches, and one of my coaches was saying, man, if you're worried about paying bills are $100, $200, $300. I can find a drug addict on the street who can get $100 in a day. You're telling me you're less resourceful? You want your success less than that drug addict wants their fix? Or you want to be a millionaire, but you're worried about $100? How do you think $1 million? How do you think? What will you feel when you get your first tax bill of making $1 million in a year? What do you think that'll feel like? You're worried about these very small problems, and you think that you can handle that life? It kind of put everything into perspective for me.
That's interesting.
And you really want to start to look at the cost and the benefit. I think that's a conversation a lot of people don't have with themselves. What do I want? What am I willing to do to get it? And how much effort am I willing to put in to maintain what I'm chasing? Because if you want like a Lamborghini and a mansion, an oil change for a Lamborghini is how much, and the cleaning bill for a mansion is how much, and maintenance is how much. Is that something that you're also willing to put up with, or do you just want the facade of the Lamborghini and the mansion?
Yeah, okay.
And so if you sit down and you actually have that conversation with yourself, what do I want out of life? What do I want to experience? And how much am I willing to pay? How much effort am I willing to put in? What do I want to give in order to receive what it is that I'm asking for?
And that's a very honest question.
Exactly.
Because if you're going to be a Bill Gates, you're dedicating everything.
Precisely.
But if you want to make 100K, that's not so bad.
Exactly.
You can have a life, but also 100K.
Exactly. And that boils back into the concept of self-mastery. Self-mastery says, if I'm happy making $30,000 a year doing what I love, then I'm happy making $30,000 a year doing what I love. There's a lot of motivational speak that I listen to and lectures and talks, and kind of consciously brainwashing myself with this information.
Literally brainwashing yourself.
You have to, because the world will do it for you if you don't.
That's one of my favorite sayings. You stick your hand in a honey pot, something's going to stick.
Yeah.
You consume enough good content on a consistent basis, read enough books, listen enough podcasts, watch enough TED Talks, it sticks.
Exactly.
You start speaking the way that you and I speak it.
Exactly. Something will talk to you. And if you look for enough, in martial arts, I would always say sometimes you have to hear the same thing said 100 different ways before it finally clicks and makes sense to you.
Absolutely.
But if you don't give yourself the opportunity to hear all 100 of those ways of hearing it, then you're selling yourself short, and then you're going to go, oh, well, that's just not for me.
That's interesting.
So actually, I was learning, I was listening to Andrew Huberman's podcast.
Love Andrew Huberman.
And he was talking about skill acquisition. And a huge gem that I picked up from that from that podcast was, when you're learning a new skill, or when you're trying to do something new, you're not looking for the right way to do it. The way that your brain forms connections is by eliminating the wrong ways to do it.
This conversation yesterday about Edison.
Exactly.
The light bulb.
999 steps to make the light bulb. It wasn't all of those failures. It was your brain has to go through infinite material and infinite options. I could do this anywhere with anything. And so what I'm actually doing is narrowing all the things that don't fit. A lot of people, when they try to learn, take the exact opposite approach, and they try to do it the right way.
Gotcha.
If you give yourself the freedom to fail.
Yeah, which is a whole different mindset, right?
Well, this is self-mastery, learning how to actually learn.
Everybody's scared of failing because they're worried about judgment, they're worried about the parents, they're worried about the partner.
Well, even the school systems that we grew up in.
Yeah, don't make a mistake.
Judge you for failing. Red sticker, bad.
Yeah.
Go sit in the corner.
Don't ask questions back.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's embedded out of us, right?
Precisely.
Fail forward, fail quickly. Failing's
Look for your failures, and
yeah.
not only that, but fail with 100% effort.
Yeah.
Because until you push yourself to failure by actually trying hard, you're never going to know where your area of opportunity actually is. That area of opportunity needs to be addressed, and you will never truly expose it until you push with 100% effort. And I think so many people are scared of pushing with effort, giving effort to something because they're judging themselves for their failures. That's something that, like, I procrastinate, I sleep in, I fail, I miss, I get angry, I get upset, I judge myself, I'm scared of other people's opinions.
You're just feeding into it, right?
Lean into that discomfort, because why would I want to pull away from my human experience? Sadness, feeling low are all the reasons why I can feel happy and high.
Absolutely.
And so I don't want to dull a whole aspect of human experience that might be where half of my repetitions are in order to find that 1,000th rep that gives me my success.
And also trains you in that self-mastery.
Exactly.
So when things do go bad, when things go bad, I can handle them so well now.
Exactly.
So well.
So much of life skill is getting back on the horse. It's not falling off. So many people try to not fail. Part of my development of my course was emphasizing that we are looking for our shortcomings. Do not shy away from them. Pursue them. And when you actually find them, it gives you the opportunity to look at yourself in an honest light. And a man that can look at himself honestly can then start to make progress.
That's interesting. You know Dan Penner?
Yes. Oh, I love him.
Dude,
I love him.
Just old school, straight to the point, does not give a crap if you like him or not.
Correct.
So soon as you take responsibility of your own life, as soon as you can change your life.
Correct.
Is what he says. And that really resonated with me. And I heard that years ago.
Yeah.
And that applies to relationships, finance, fitness, health, like everything. You are in control, 100%. Point finger, blaming other people, it's my parents, it's this, it's that. Step up, take responsibility, and watch your life change.
Well,
full stop.
One of the reasons why my self-mastery program is rooted in physical fitness is because the gym was one of the very first places that I went so I could have complete freedom over what I did. I started working at the bank when I was like 17, before I even graduated. I had this whole mindset of who I was going to be and what I was going to do, and landmarkers of what age I would have this amount of success by, and I had it all mapped out. And then life happened. And I realized, oh, life doesn't care about your plans.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's that Mike Tyson, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah.
So I got punched in the face a lot in life. And it left me kind of like trying to figure out, okay, where do I have control? Where can I go to start to learn how to positively influence myself? And where can I invest this time in a manner that will give me a return? And so I went to the gym. There was a old school bodybuilding Gold's Gym out here on like Flamingo and Sand Hill, and like all the old school bodybuilders worked out there, and it was really cool for just the culture that the gym had. And so I would go in there, and I was 150 pounds. I was 17, 18, 19. I was self-conscious, scared. I was beaten up by life, and I was just looking for an area where people wouldn't tell me, hey, you can't do that, you can't try that, there's rules there, you can't go there, you can't do that. And if I hurt myself, it was my responsibility. If I wanted to throw all the weight in the gym on the bar and try to lift it, I could. When I worked at the bank, I couldn't try to be CEO for the day, but I could go into the gym and try to lift what he lifted, and then it would give me a whole new respect for what he did and try to understand the path of how he got there.
Gotcha.
And so the gym is a wonderful place to invest time, energy, and effort in a way that gives you a physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional return. And it's very difficult to find areas in the world that give you that type of return for that type of effort. And it also teaches you the foundational principles, philosophies, and concepts of what it means to be successful. Because there are X's and O's to it. There is like, okay, I need to write down my goals. I need to have a vision of what I want to achieve. I need to create a timeline, and then I need to figure out the steps that I need to take in order to achieve that goal. A lot of people just go, I want to be there. I want to have that. Let me meditate and think about how I want to bring it into my life.
Yeah.
There's a legitimate process. Why not learn that process at the gym? And while you're learning that process, you're also getting more fit, you're getting more confident, you're getting stronger, better looking, healthier, and you're combining all of your efforts in a way that gets you maximal return.
And you're also learning patience. And things don't...
That is a huge part of
instant
success.
gratification, right?
Correct.
Because martial arts,
Exactly.
fitness,
Exactly.
business doesn't happen overnight.
Exactly.
You can wish all you want, but to
It's
get a
like
six-pack,
you
you
can't-
know you get a six-pack, 4 months of dieting, if you're 100%. That's the reality of it. There's no other way of getting there.
Correct.
Full stop.
Correct.
You want to get a blue belt jiu-jitsu, 2-3 years of rolling on the mats. No other way of getting there. You got to put the reps in. So I totally agree.
Exactly. You plant a seed. No matter how many times you move the pot around, how much you will the seed to grow, how much you overwater it, how much you scream at it or berate it or belittle it for not growing fast enough, it will grow at its own pace.
Yeah.
Self-mastery is about understanding that life really is long, and you have a lot of days to invest into your growth and your development. And the strongest trees in the forest got that way because they were subject to the beating that they took over the 150 years that it took them to reach that high and that wide.
And you're also learning to embrace the journey too.
Correct.
Which I feel like is part
It
of self-mastery.
is the journey.
Right? Yeah,
It
the
is the
journey
journey.
is everything. Even on dieting, I enjoy dieting more than I do getting to the results.
Correct.
some reason I just enjoy the journey, the ups and downs, the struggle.
Well,
when I get to the spot, it's kind of boring.
You're always going to look for the next mountain.
That's the problem, right?
You know,
you get there, like, what now? What?
Exactly. Exactly. That was something that, you know, I reflect on a lot in my martial arts journey. I remember my very first day walking into my school and being scared and, you know, timid and young, and looking at all the people who I thought were awesome doing things that I wanted to do one day. And then I remember year 2, and then I remember year 4 and 7, and then I remember moving from starting in front of the mirrors, learning my forms and practices, to standing in the back watching everybody else do stuff, and, you know, just kind of running the class. And then closing up the school and locking it for the final day and taking all the pictures off the wall, and then looking back going, man, I wish I was getting poked in the eye and kicked in the shin a little bit more regularly, you know? Because it is the struggle that you enjoy. It is the process. It's the constant questioning of, am I doing the right thing? Should I stop or should I keep going? Man, is this taking too much? What am I willing to sacrifice for this? All of that is beautiful. And for some reason, it seems like people don't want to experience that process. People don't want to ask themselves those questions. They don't want to sit down with thoughts that are a little bit heavier than the average thought. They don't want to go deeper and really question what this whole thing actually is.
All right, sorry. Please, continue.
I think if you give yourself the freedom to contemplate life on a deeper level, then that pulls you away from the constant pursuit. One of the things that I've really tried to do in the development of my self-mastery program is include the best bits of everything that I've learned over the last 30 years. And I have a deep, passionate appreciation for Zen, meditation and Buddhism, Eastern philosophy, Taoism. And part of that practice is appreciating your momentary existence. And one of the things that I've also done with my program is try to find the things that stop us or inhibit us from having those types of experiences.
Okay.
One of the things that self-mastery is about is kind of appreciating your moment-to-moment existence, not allowing external things to influence how you feel about yourself and the life that you're living and your ultimate path and purpose. One of the things that I've noticed why it's really, really difficult for a lot of people to start to take control over themselves, their lives, their actions, their thoughts, their emotions, is because they're stuck in fight or flight mode. What a lot of people don't realize is constant stimulus, constant internal dialogue, constant perceived threat, all of this excessive pleasure, everything is meant to hijack your system. It's meant to control your dopamine, it's meant to control your attention, to control your blood pressure, your heart rate, your response. They want your pupils to dilate. They want to show you the most beautiful things you've ever seen in order to get your attention to go here, there, 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 there. And in the competition for your attention, what I don't think the average individual realizes is their nervous system has been completely hijacked and is no longer under their control. It can be clearly observed whenever you present an option to an individual that is very logical, very simple, and they reject it. Because, for example, I had a client come in one day and she said, I got into an argument with my boss. I don't know how to think about this. She's just being a bitch and I just don't know what to do, and here's how it should be, da 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 da. And I said, okay, what I want you to do the next time that situation happens, I don't want you to focus on the outcome or anything like that. I just want you to focus on breathing. And she kind of flipped out a little bit. Like, you don't know how serious this is. She kind of got offended almost. You're going to tell me to breathe? I'm having a difficult life situation. I'm telling you how I feel threatened. And your answer to me is to breathe? And I said, okay, let's practice. In, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4. And we breathed for 60 seconds, 2 minutes. And then all of a sudden she kind of looked at me and like it clicked.
That's crazy.
And she understood finally that if you're not in control of your breath, the thing that you're doing constantly, and if you don't do, you cease to exist. You are not in control of absolutely anything else.
True. Think about when you do yoga and you're stressing out and you stop breathing and you relax.
Exactly.
I do ice baths every day. The number one thing I do is breathe.
I have a cousin who coaches ice baths, and through the medium of ice bath, breath work and mindset and meditation.
And breath is everything.
Exactly.
Everything. If I box breathe, as soon as I get in, I see it online. People are, I was like, and I'm just sitting there chilling, my eyes are shut, I'm in this like Zen state.
Correct.
Because I'm breathing.
Correct.
When I'm doing Muay Thai, I'm getting my butt kicked.
Yes.
I remember to breathe.
Yes.
It's when you stop breathing is when the anxiety goes up.
Exactly.
And you lose control.
Exactly. And what a lot of people don't realize is they were never taught how to breathe.
No one
don't
knows.
know how to breathe.
You think it would be natural, but it's not.
And imagine pursuing the highest success of your life and not thinking that learning how to breathe is essential to that process.
It's correct. The more I learn about it, the more like, oh, wow, this is...
Exactly.
Like, I mean, just learning the last couple of years. I'm like,
Exactly.
oh, wow, I wish I knew this 20 years ago.
Right?
Powerful stuff.
That's what I've done with this Self-Mastery in 90 Days program, is I've picked the mediums to pursue that will give you a return. I've figured out all the ways to eliminate the resistance that you will face in pursuing something. And there's also habit coaching. There's assigned reading. There's books to read.
Yep.
There's regular mindset coaching, to where navigating difficulties is a skill set that can be learned. And success
Absolutely.
is an actual formula. And if you learn how to apply the steps of that formula to any area of your life, then you will ultimately experience success in that area.
Touch on habit coaching. What do you go on?
So habit coaching is something that I realized a lot of people need.
Habits are everything, right?
Well, not just that. It's habits are influenced and also influence your rhythm and momentum. And rhythm and momentum are very under-discussed concepts when it comes to finding success. The habits that you perform on a day-to-day basis do a very good job of creating a rhythm and an overall, I guess what you could call like energy for your life, your overall vibe. What wave are you riding day to day? And if your habits are waking up and lazily doing that, and then kind of nonchalantly doing this, and you're approaching things like this is just kind of repetition, and your habits are focused on pleasure, then it's easy to understand why a lot of people have a hard time conceptualizing what success would even look like for them.
Or they just become soft too.
Well, one of the things that one of the biggest epiphanies that I had was, let's take the 1% for example. What are 1%ers? When you say 1%er, the average person thinks income.
No, it's mindset, it's fitness, it's
well,
health,
we know that.
Yeah.
Because that is something that we have now understood as the foundation of achievement. Foundation of achievement is your habit and your practice. That's also where confidence is built. Confidence is built in successfully completing practice repetitions under increased stress levels progressively. If you can do that, you will slowly build enough confidence to be able to perform in areas where you never thought you could perform. And so what we learn is what we're actually trying to do is adopt the habits that we need to adopt in order to transform ourselves into the type of person that we hope to become one day. And then by becoming that person, we will now be able to experience the things that that person experiences. So a lot of people just want to go straight to the experience. If I have this thing, and if I can wake up and see these things, and if I can have these freedoms, then I will feel this type of way, and then I will be that type of person. It's exactly the opposite. That's the paradox of life. The paradox is you have to feel that way first You have to act that way first. You have to be that person first. And then and only then will the door open for you to access that life.
That's interesting.
And so one of the biggest things that I've started to do is, or one of the biggest things that I did while designing my program, is implement daily habits and rituals. There are certain things that I call non-negotiables. Things that you have to do for your physical self every day. Stay hydrated, get sunlight, take a cold shower, do your exercise, go for a walk. If you're not doing the basic things that your machinery requires in order to operate successfully, then you can't hope to think properly, you can't hope to pursue goals, you can't hope to have good conversations or be successful in relationships or anything like that. If your tires are flat, your axle's bent, you need an oil change, your radiator has a hole in it, and your key's broken, you're not going to be successful driving anywhere.
It seems like very simple things, but it's so...
That's why they're so hard to overlook.
But they're so powerful, because I do all those things.
Correct.
And it's normal. It's normal for you and I, and we've done it forever.
Exactly.
But for the normal person, just taking a cold shower, or just moving, or just eating better, or it's hard things. Never learn all of them. But if you can get them to do all of it, their life is going to change significantly.
Exactly.
And their mindset.
Why wouldn't you give yourself every tool you could to effectively fight your problems? And not just fight your problems, but to effectively build the life you want to live in. What we're all trying to do is create a life where we enjoy living in it, and we have the ability and opportunity to express ourselves openly and honestly on a regular basis. That's what the fight is all about.
Yeah.
And that's the fight that everybody is fighting. And I think that if you learn the concepts and principles of how to take care of the thing that is living, and then how to operate that thing most effectively, and how to point it in the direction that you want to walk in, then you will have a substantially greater chance at being successful in whatever area you choose.
Yeah, that's 100% right.
Yes.
Yes. The books that you have, what are the ones that you recommend?
So I recommend quite a few books to a lot of people.
Is that the one in your program though? Or
so the one
do you have set books in your program?
I do have set books in my programs. The book that I start everybody out with is As a Man Thinketh by James Allen.
Yeah.
And the reason why I love not just that book in particular, but that style of book, and there's actually a collection on YouTube called the Master Key Society, I believe it is.
Okay.
And they are a lot of books written in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And I love that style of writing because it's not overwhelmingly produced with sales in mind, which means that it's free of a lot of the nonsense that you have to get through to actually get information nowadays. I have to watch people dance and sing to try to get my attention before I can actually get the information.
Yeah.
So I like older books because they get right to the point.
Even Richest Man in Babylon is kind of that style.
Well, that's actually included in the Master Key. Yeah, exactly. So it's a lot of those books.
Gotcha.
And As a Man Thinketh talks about the starting point for all achievement, for all accomplishment, for all self-awareness, really. And that's the thoughts that you think in your own head. And the longer that I have coached and the longer that I have kind of pursued assisting others in their pursuit of self-mastery, the more I've encountered people that don't realize the power of thought and and the way that they think influences their concept of self and what that self is capable of in the actual world. There's a term, neurolinguistics.
Yeah.
Neurolinguistic programming is the way that what you say to yourself, how that influences your idea of who you are and what you're capable of.
100%.
If I'm holding a glass and that glass is filled with water up to the brim and I have to walk upstairs, I have a couple different ways I can think about that process. Don't drop the cup. Don't drop the cup. Don't spill water. Don't fail. Don't trip. Don't trip. Don't be clumsy. Or I'm strong. I'm stable. I'm confident. I have great balance. I can fly up these stairs. I'm going to get to the top without spilling a drop.
Dude, that's awesome.
So
so simple.
the way that you think about
It's like a
what you are
paradigm shift.
doing has a large influence on the result you will get from doing that thing.
And you're less likely to spill the water with that mindset.
Correct.
That's crazy. I never heard that before. I like that.
Well, that's one of my philosophies and my sayings is the way that you think about what you're about to do is going to greatly influence the result you get from doing that thing.
That could also be like, people that, I got to go to work. I get to go to work. Just a simple way of putting it.
Or a lot of people go into the gym and go, oh, that's just losing fat and putting on muscle. Or it's about learning how to take control of your world and create your universe. How different are those two things?
I like that, man. It's got me thinking, like, how can I use that in my life? And I guarantee there's places where I can use that.
As soon as the seed is planted, and as soon as you actually start to learn kind of the steps that I've included in my program, the progressive thought process of how to think about yourself and where to start to go to gather the information and how to legitimately train the animal to achieve the greatest success that it could possibly achieve, then the egg is cracked, and then you can really start cooking.
I like it.
Yeah.
It's very powerful. So next time we're going to do 100 heavy kicks on the bag, I'm like, I get to do 100. Oh, I'm strong, I'm powerful, I'm balanced, I got this.
Correct. And here's the whole thing. The most beautiful part about self-mastery is, say for example, you get to kick 79 and you sprain your ankle. Self-mastery is about maximizing the opportunities from that situation just as much as you would get opportunity and gold from completing the 100 kicks in the first place.
Explain that to me.
Okay, so you complete the 100 kicks.
Yeah.
Okay, good job. Where was the hard part? The endurance?
Yeah, the endurance.
Yeah, the snappiness, all of that stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, so you succeeded there. How much of those lessons are you going to take away?
Yeah, okay, and that's gone back to what you were saying earlier.
Correct.
Opposed to failing.
Now, you fail, you sprain your ankle at 79. Do you stop or do you keep going?
You'd say stop.
You stop?
Well, you'd have to, wouldn't you?
Do you? Or do you throw knees?
Okay.
Or do you replace it? Or do you sit and control the emotional content that you just gathered from an injury? Because an injury is more substantial than 100 kick on the bag success. And so diving in to the heavy meat and potatoes of that failure will teach you more about who you are, how to handle that shortcoming, and what success actually looks like. What is success? Is success doing the 100 reps, or is success failing and extrapolating every lesson possible from that failure?
Deep.
There's more gold in a failure than there is in a success.
That's interesting.
And so if I'm looking to be a rich man, where do I actually want to dig?
In the mistakes.
In the failures.
Yeah.
Right? So everyone's looking for their success. I love failing. I love when my palms get sweaty. I love when I get nervous. I love when I feel stupid. I love when I oh man, they're watching me and I feel awkward. I love when I go home and all I can think about is that self-doubt that I gathered. How did I perform in the midst of that self-doubt? Where could I have done better? That's the gold.
That's where the growth comes from.
That's where I want to be. I am not more concerned with how I feel in the moment than I am with the ultimate goal. And so many people are more concerned with their momentary pleasure and safety and comfort and trying to fluff their ego with successes that don't truly have any significance versus allowing themselves to fully push.
That's interesting. And when you tie in social media, you see the perfect photo.
Now, this isn't to say that small wins and small successes have no value, because that's actually what you're building on top of.
Yeah.
Because every successful repetition, 1 leads to 2, 2 leads to 3. So you're building a success, a library of individual moments. So we now go back to the self-mastery of living in the moment. And so if kick 1 was beautiful, then you've had the greatest success that you could have for the day and you're trying to replicate it. If you've replicated it enough, then your greatest success would be doing 10,000 kicks. in that 10,000 repetition, of course you're going to sprain your ankle. And so if that's the case, then let me get that sprained ankle out of the way. Hurry, give it to me as quickly as I can. Let me sprain my ankle day 2 in the gym, because then I know it's done, and that's one of the worst things that can happen to me. And now I can move forward. An analogy I use a lot with my clients when it comes to mindset coaching and navigating difficult situations is, if I were to get onto a ship and have to sail from here all the way 1,000 miles over there, I don't want the captain that has always had blue skies. I don't want the captain that has never had a mutiny. I don't want the captain that has never gotten sick on the journey. I want a captain that has been through absolutely everything and still knows how to navigate the waters and has still been successful. So if that's the case, do you want to be on a ship with a successful captain, or do you yourself want to be the captain of your life? If that's the case, then you're going to have to face a few storms. You're going to have to get sick. You're going to have to get injured. You're going to have to deal with unruly members of your crew. You're going to have to learn how to deal with passenger mistakes, holes in the boat, machinery problems. You're going to have to go through absolutely everything if you truly want to be a master captain. And if that's the case, then you have to have an attitude of bring it on.
That's some powerful stuff.
If you want it to be brought on, you have to have your body in a position that can handle the responsibility, the load, the repetition, the discipline, the constant push towards uncomfortability. And that's why we build the self-mastery program on a foundation of health, strength, wellness, and vitality. Because if those things are not accomplished first, then how can you hope to push into the uncomfortable future of success? I don't think people realize that success is unnatural.
Okay.
Success is unnatural. What is natural as humans is safety, comfort. Find the biggest, strongest thing, let them take care of everything, and I'll tolerate as much as I can tolerate as long as they keep me safe.
Yeah.
That's human nature. That's what we all want. We all want safety, repetition, and constant nothing to change, our same habits over and over and over again. What do we have to do in order to be successful? We have to put ourselves in uncomfortable situations. We have to push the envelope constantly. We have to put an unnecessarily large amount of stress on our nervous system, our body, our mind, our spirit. We have to constantly go through the feelings of self-doubt, self-inadequacy. How much am I actually worth? Imposter syndrome is something huge that I've always dealt with. This is not natural. If you want this, you are putting yourself constantly in a very unnatural situation. There's a quote that I love, and it might be Immanuel Kant. I can't remember, but it says, in an unnatural scenario, an unnatural response could be considered natural. And that goes back onto giving yourself the freedom to flip out every once in a while, yell, punch a hole in the wall, shred a pillow, flip your desk over. Beethoven was in there pounding on his piano. You know what I mean? Like, give yourself the freedom to stress yourself to the max. That's also part of self-mastery. Do not judge yourself for the process you have to go through to create what you're trying to create, if you actually are trying to create something beautiful.
I feel like we covered like a million different little nuggets there.
I'm good at tangents.
What else? It just shows passion, and I'm the same. Like I'm like throw my hands around and raise my voice. Yeah. But it's true. You know you're doing what you love when you're meant to be doing when you're so passionate about something.
Correct.
What else in the mastery? What else are you covering? Like, you got the books, you've got habits, you've got...
Yeah, so one of the things that the original martial art that I learned, Wing Chun, is a lot about physics, mathematics. I'm sorry?
What got you into Wing Chun of all martial arts?
There was quite a few different things. I wanted something that I knew would be difficult. When I was younger, I was surrounded by people who were do as I say, not as I do. And they had grandiose dreams and goals. They wanted to do this, write books, start a recording label, be famous this, do that, be a writer, all this other type of stuff. And as soon as it got difficult, they would stop or find excuses to not really push to their limit or capabilities. And so one of my goals in starting Wing Chun was to do something that I knew would take, everyone was like, yo, this is like an 8-year process. And this is going to take you a long time. And there's like 1% of people that get to the end of this. And I was like, okay, that sounds nice.
Sounds like a challenge.
Yeah. And so I found all the art forms that were like that. And then I learned, I'm a big like researcher. So I did, it was between that, Muay Thai. There were a couple of different disciplines that I was looking at. And I ended up going with Wing Chun because of the Bruce Lee history. I really admired Bruce Lee as a kid.
Yeah.
He was one of my idols. And the philosophies and concepts behind Wing Chun really spoke to me. It was mathematics, leverage, economy of motion. The shortest distance between point A and point B is a straight line.
Yeah.
The straight line beats the roundabout. And the philosophy was excessively appealing to me. It was very, very beautiful. Softness beats hardness. Yielding is actually overcoming. The old Bruce Lee concept of fighting without fighting.
Yeah.
You know, I really loved but I was also thin, skinny, weak, and the concept of having a martial art where suppleness and quickness could overcome people who were bigger and stronger than you was very appealing to me. And just the science and process of it. I loved the way that there was an aesthetic beauty in like the hand positions to me. You know what I mean? I really loved the way that everything, it just spoke to me. And when you find something that speaks to you, I think you just have to go for it. And it's one of those things like you don't get to choose who you fall in love with. You just fall in love. And I fell in love. And I trained so much. No exaggeration, like 6 hours a day, 6 days a week for like 3 to 4 years before I pulled off the gas at all.
You just got obsessed.
I am that type of person.
Yeah.
I mean, you can kind of tell in the conversation. I'm very obsessive.
When you're in your
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
so I dug in and I did it more than anyone ever did it. I would train with him until he was exhausted and then move on through every single person in the studio. I would show up 3 hours before everybody else. I'd stay 3 hours after everybody else. I did the whole disciple ceremony. I became like fully entrenched in it. I competed in every tournament that I could compete in. You know, like I really went all the way for it. And I also got emotionally attached to the process of becoming a better person. There were so many like masculine figures that provided a lot that I didn't have growing up.
Okay.
I grew up without a father, so there were a lot of people there that gave me a lot of things that I was looking for in my path to become a young man. And I fully attached myself to that. And one of the most beautiful concepts in Wing Chun is the path of least resistance and economy of motion. Being able to accomplish as much as possible while doing as little as possible.
Economy of motion. Okay.
And that's actually what self-mastery boils down to. You want to use your time in the ways that you want to use it. That's what everybody wants. I want to do the things that I want to do with my time. If you want that, you are pursuing self-mastery. That's the simple black and white of it. If you want to do the things that you want to do with your time in your life, you want to help people, you want to serve this, you want to build that, you want to go here, you want to experience that, that's actually what you're pursuing, is to become the type of person that can create those circumstances in the real world. And so that's self-mastery. And in order to do that, it's not about adding things, it's actually about removing things. And this is going back onto the concept of skill acquisition. You're not looking for the right way to do something. You're learning to eliminate all of the things that no longer serve a purpose. When you're sculpting, you're removing material that is not part of the final sculpture. And so a lot of people think that when they start a new program, for example, damn it, there's all these things I'm going to have to start doing. No, it's actually the complete opposite. With my program, there's a lot of things that you're going to stop doing. A lot of people go, well, I mean, for example, worrying. obsessing over nonsensical things, beating yourself up and berating yourself, belittling yourself for not making the right decisions. Those things in and of themselves release a lot of pressure from your life. Now, if we use physical exercise as an example, when I started, I thought that the more time I spent in the gym, the better.
Me too.
What I actually learned is that we want to pick the highest value activities that apply to where I'm trying to go and perform those activities in the perfect amount of volume. That way I don't do too little so I'm not affecting myself, but I don't do so much that I burn myself out and I can't accomplish the task.
Quality over quantity.
So we're looking for finding the Goldilocks zone. You can look at the same example when it comes to meal prepping. What I've done is design a method of meal prepping that takes probably 15 to 20 minutes.
Okay.
If you include the grocery store time and travel time, you're looking at a max of about an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes, depending on how far you have to travel.
Yeah.
So we're removing wasted time. We're removing wasted motion, and we're removing wasted effort and energy. With that time, effort, and energy, you can now give that back to yourself to put into your passion, your purpose, and your goals.
And the quicker and more efficient it is, the more likely you are to succeed with
That's
it.
exactly it. The simpler it is.
Yeah.
The simpler the steps. Can you do this, this, and this? Of course I can. Okay, well, if I said that this, this, and this will help you get to there, will you do it? The resistance that you get is, wait a second. There's no way that is kind of the same way that there's no way breathing is going to help me. The answers are so simple.
Yeah, even fasting would be another way.
Correct.
Just eat in a smaller window.
Correct. That's exactly it.
Just simple.
Yep.
But so effective.
Correct. And what we realize, a lot of what Wing Chun practice taught me is that tension creates unnecessary problems. So learning how to relax is the first step in trying to actually make progress. And the simpler the move, the harder it is to find.
What do you mean?
Say for example, I have a golf club, okay, and I'm trying to fix my swing. I might look at the way my shoulders are set. I might kind of look at where my feet are, 2 inches this way, 2 inches that way. What if you just adjusted the head of the club 1 degree? That's the simplest step you could take. And if you're not doing that, you don't know that that's not the answer.
Gotcha.
There's a lot of times when I'm teaching somebody a stance, right? I'll teach you your boxing stance, and I'll teach you, say for example, a slip. Boxing is a game of inches. You just need the punch to miss you. A lot of people slip so hard that they take themselves all the way out of position.
Yeah.
And so what a lot of people don't realize is that part of self-mastery is figuring out how much effort to put in corrective action.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
You actually want to remove a lot of what you're doing, because a lot of what you're doing is adding unnecessary stress to your system. And when you add unnecessary stress to your system, it gets harder and harder to find the simpler and simpler options.
You see, you're basically talking efficiency, right?
That's what economy of motion is. It's all about efficiency. The shortest distance between point A and point B is going to be a straight line. There's an exception to this, and the funny exception to this is if you're going down. The slope to going down is actually faster than the straight line. If you have a straight line that goes from here to here, and you actually give that a little downward momentum slope first, that curved line will be faster going downward.
Gotcha.
Right? So if you're going any other direction, the fastest line, or the fastest path is going to be that straight line. So if you're looking to go parallel or up, you're looking for those straight line methods.
Yeah.
And those straight line methods are all about efficiency and economy of motion and the path of least resistance. If you can design your life where you have economy of motion, little resistance to the things that you need to do on a regular basis, like taking care of yourself, for example. If I can teach you how to work out effectively 3 days a week, 50 minutes a session, and get better results than if you worked out 6 days a week, 2 hours a session, which is preferable for the lifestyle that you're hoping to achieve. Now, that's not to say that...
It's a no-brainer for anybody,
exactly,
right?
Especially high efficiency, high pursuit
Yeah.
people. People who are in that 1% are really looking for ways to economize their life. I don't have time for this. I can't figure out how to do that. I got too much going on. My schedule's already filled. If I really want to do this, it can't add stress to my life.
Yeah.
It can't.
Time being the most valuable
And I
thing.
took all of that into consideration when I designed this program, because I actually went from a part-time bank employee at high school to running my own business and being an entrepreneur, and not just becoming a good trainer is one thing, but then actually becoming an entrepreneur and trying to create a product, and then learning marketing and psychology and branding and writing copy and building websites, and how do I talk to people, and where's the resistance for my program, and how can I actually design something that people want to use. This is a completely different world. And if you like, I've spent a lot of time in that world because I pursued that lifestyle.
Gotcha.
I want to be at that place, and if I'm at that place, I have to figure out the most efficient ways to do these things. I have to figure out the simplest ways to do these things, because all of my time, energy, and effort, I mean, shit, at the bare minimum, might have to go to sleep and rest and recovery. You know what I mean? And so I don't have time to be cooking my meals, and I don't have time to be doing that. But by not doing those things, that means that I'm forcing myself into bad decision options. And the more that I accumulate bad decision options, the harder it becomes to correct course and rhythm and momentum. So these are all things that I've really spent a lot of time, not just living and understanding and subjecting myself to as kind of the guinea pig, but also accumulating experience from the people that I've coached, from my coaching, from my coaches themselves, and really taking into account not just the physical condition, but the mental, emotional, spiritual, philosophical position of a person who is trying to pursue their highest potential in life.
Got it. What coaches do you have? Like, you've got a couple coaches. What coaches are they, and what do they do for you?
So a lot of my coaches are also clients. We have very, good relationships like that. There are a few people that I had as kind of influences when I was younger that I would like to consider coaches. But a couple of the biggest ones, there's actually a couple that started out as my clients at EOS when I worked over at the Big Box Gym. They came to me and I started working with them, and they were kind of the first ones that really helped me figure out the heights of what I could do.
Okay.
And the good thing, it's a really good feeling when people are like, why are you here doing this? You could be this, and that. We find a lot of value in have you ever thought about this? Have you ever thought about that? And so they actually sprinkled, planted quite a few seeds. And throughout the process, these two individuals have been exceptionally influential, valuable, in not just the way that they coach me, but the way that they learn from me as well. Which is why I love positioning myself in that type of, I'll learn from you, you learn from me.
Yeah.
That's one of the beauties of self-mastery, is think of like the Knights of the Round Table. Everybody at that table has something valuable to bring to that table. And when you are pursuing self-mastery, you start to encounter other people on that same path.
Yeah.
Just by kind of universal alignment.
Yeah.
I have a theory, and I think that objects in this universe with greater density attract objects with like density or lesser density. And so if you start to hone in and create yourself, just naturally you're going to start to attract other people and start to orbit around people that are also doing the same thing.
100%.
And so self-mastery is a lot about creating a community. It's very isolating. It's very lonely to try to constantly put yourself in that position of success.
100%.
And so I've found huge value in finding coaches that like to learn from me just as much as they like to teach me, because we fill a lot of those spaces for each other.
Yeah.
So these two people, actually, one of them is, he's a life coach. He is, he's involved in like artificial intelligence and technology. He's kind of, right now, one of his biggest pursuits is designing a neuroplasticity program to help your brain form better connections and habits, so you can start to perform better, have better memory, cognitive responses,
Nice.
habit and pattern recognition. So he's actually designing something like that. And his partner is a branding master. She does. She's also a life coach. A lot of the people that I've started to encounter have a profession, but it's almost like the profession is a medium that allows them to express their life's purpose and their goal, and ultimately help others who have similar experiences or are pursuing similar goals, whatever the case may be. So they have, like, we all have a talent, a thing that we're really good at. I'm strength and conditioning, biomechanics, boxing, martial arts, but on a deeper level, I'm mindset and life coach and self-mastery and the pursuit of your highest self and success. What I do is just a medium through with which I transfer these philosophies and concepts.
Gotcha.
And so they very much feel the same way to me, where the things that they're creating and doing are mediums for them to actually transmute that energy and that purpose.
I did personal training for 8 years, and anyone can afford personal training is got their life together.
Yeah.
And you learn about shares and investing,
Exactly.
real estate. And you've seen them 2-3 times a week, and they share everything with you, and you learn a lot. It's kind of a little cheat
It's one
code.
of the best parts of the job. Legitimately, one of the best parts of the job is forming connections with people that you would have never gotten to form connections
This
with
podcast,
otherwise.
man. Oh my god.
Yeah.
This podcast.
Yeah.
It's not why I did it, but oh my god.
I'm sure it's open. So like
it's stupid.
Just conversations.
It's ridiculous. I went to a meetup thing last night. 3 people there had been on my podcast.
Yeah.
Out of 8 people.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
That's awesome.
As far as and I always say, when do you meet 2 or 3 good people in a year, right? It's pretty rare.
Yeah.
I meet 3 people every single week like yourself.
Yeah.
It's like this life hack.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. It's a really, really cool way to set yourself up to start to get exposed to what you need to get exposed to expand and contract yourself.
But the beauty is you're doing it for other people to help them. But by doing so, being selfless also helps you be selfish, I guess.
Well,
but
that's
not intentionally.
I'm really glad that you brought that up, because one of the biggest things that I struggled with is I don't want money. I don't want the traditional. I want the freedom that comes along with it.
Freedom.
But as far as
free.
having things,
Possessions.
I grew up really, bro. I've had one shirt. You know what I mean? One pair of pants, one shoe. I've eaten out of trash cans. I've had to steal to eat. I know what that life is. And so I've been happy there.
Yeah.
And so when you're happy in those places, you kind of get a deeper way of looking at life. And it washed away my desire for material.
It's pretty empty, right?
It is. It's just...
And a lot of times it's not for you. It's for what someone else thinks of
the image
you.
that you want to portray.
That thing? It's a Gary Vee video, and the guy's like, I want a Lamborghini. He's like, do you want a Lamborghini, or just want you think it's going to give you?
What you think it means.
Yeah, how people are going to interpret it.
Exactly.
And he just called him out, and that's why most people want that.
And so when I started to really push for success, when I had to sit down and say, what does success look like for you? What I came to the conclusion of was to be surrounded by people who I helped achieve greater success. That's it. And if that's the case, I did it.
And that's deep, and that has purpose.
And so it's, and when you realize, oh fuck, I did it. I did it. That in and of itself gives you the freedom to start doing it again and replicating the process and going over and over and over again. But I wanted to be the man behind the curtain. I don't care about popularity. I don't care about renown. I don't care about who likes me or doesn't like me. I don't care about how much I have. I don't care about how much you have. I don't want what you have. I have no desire for any of that. What I want is to provide value to people who are in a position to push humanity forward, who are trying to do great things for themselves and others, to help people achieve, give people a chance to achieve something that they might not have had without what I bring to the table.
A little bit of guidance.
Exactly.
Help people become the best version of themselves.
And so what I figured is, shit, I've been through a lot. I've done a lot. I've put myself through a lot. Let me go ahead and put everything I've learned into the simplest, most clear, foundational way I can present it, and then give that to the people who really want to push themselves.
I love it.
Yeah. And being surrounded, when you start to do that, that's, I think, when you start getting access to your real coaches, your real guides. I had a guy who was in my martial arts school, and that Wing Chun is traditionally a stand-up martial art. You're usually on your feet most of the time, striking and whatnot. And I didn't realize that he was like a really high-level wrestler. And I was kind of like almost antagonizing him, more or less. Just kind of like, you need to get better. You need to get better. You should protect yourself here. And he's like, man, can you stop? I'm trying to learn. And I was just in my ego, and I was young, and I'm like, nope, this is helping you learn. Boop, 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 boop. And then a few years passed, and I realized that he did wrestling. And I'm like, oh, wow, okay, I have a need to learn that now. And I reached out to him. And I said, hey, man, will you teach me wrestling? And he goes, yeah, sure, come on over. So I went over to his house, and he walked me upstairs, and he had this little loft area, and he had his mat out. And he goes, okay, we'll start at like 40%, and we'll just move around. You just kind of do what you think wrestling is. I know he's like, I know you. So I know that you know what you've film studied and tried to figure things out on your own. Just try to wrestle. And he goes, I'll go at 40%. I'm like, okay. Before I knew it, I was up in the air, on my back. He had me like corkscrewed and twisted. Yeah. And I was like, oh my goodness. And then he became my wrestling coach, and I learned from him for like 2 years. I would go over to his house 2-3 times a week, and we'd work our butts off. And he also became one of my coaches, because a man that could take your life from you but doesn't is it causes you to sit after practice with a little bit more humility.
It keeps you so humble.
And I think jiu-jitsu people have this on a regular basis.
Jiu-jitsu, 100%.
And
even Muay Thai.
Exactly. Anybody where you're kind of putting your body on the line, and you allow a person to take you to your limit, and you're trusting them, and they trust you to do the same thing to them.
And you have such a high level of respect for
That's what a coach is.
Yeah.
A coach is somebody who's going to put you in a position where you will fail, but where you will fail safely. And a lot of people don't want to fail. A lot of people don't want to experience the feelings that go with the failures, and so they shy away from anything that ever gives them the opportunity to progress. But my coaches became my coaches because they helped me identify my failures, gave me positions to fail in, let me fail, and then taught me why I failed, and then how to be more successful moving forward. So my wrestling coach is somebody who I would consider, he's like 5 years older than me, so he's not distance-wise far, but he's somebody who I greatly admire, really look up to. My coaches have a very large influence in my life, and it's people who I have usually shared difficult moments with, because failure is difficult, and learning how to process your failures, especially when you come from a tender position. If you're in a tender position, or if a lot of life has happened to you, sometimes it can be really scary to even think about putting yourself in a position where you might re-experience negative emotions that you have previously experienced. So if you think that thing is going to make you feel that again, you're not going to do that.
Yeah.
You need a coach that understands that. It can help walk you into that situation, and then kind of gently let your hand go as you ride. Yeah. And then whenever you're about to fall, it can kind of gently guide you down to the ground. You might scrape your knee a little bit, but at the end of the day, you're safe. And my coaches are very much people who have guided me through those really stressful situations where you're kind of carving away pieces of yourself that no longer apply. And they're like, hey man, if this is where we are, and if you want to reach this level, this is what you're going to have to do. Because that's what a coach is. Like, hey, if you're trying to get up to the top of the mountain, then I'm showing you the steps. This is what we're going to have to do. So that's why my coaches become my coaches.
Gotcha.
You know, like it, and it's also important for, I think, you to see your coaches struggle.
Oh, absolutely.
One of my martial arts partners said the reason why I came to this school is because Sifu is still learning. Sifu has teachers. If I came here and Sifu wasn't learning from somebody, I would think that I would be able to catch him and then lap him. But the fact that he goes regularly and learns and is also learning other art forms and is constantly pushing himself to better himself, then I feel very comfortable being under his guidance because I know he's feeling what I'm feeling.
Before we wrap up, anything else you want to touch on? Anything else you want to kind of summarize, go over? We covered a lot.
We covered a whole lot. We really did.
So it's like, I'm going to let you kind of summarize it up for me.
What's funny is we talk a whole lot, but the end goal is actually simplicity. You know, that's what it really boils down to. Is in order to really make progress, you have to look at the ways that you can simplify the process. Look at the ways that you can simplify the foundational things that you need to be successful. And if you can figure out a way to do that, you can kind of apply that to a lot of other processes.
So an example, go to the gym 3 days a week and getting what you would get out of 6 days.
Exactly.
Or reading a book which is abbreviated opposed to the whole book. Or
correct. Or even
meal prepping in an hour opposed to 3 hours.
Exactly. How can I take this process and make it simpler and make it a regular part of my rhythm and habit? And what I think a lot of people should start to prioritize is the care of the machinery that they hope to achieve with. Because if you're not eating right, if you're not getting sunlight, if you're not hydrated, if you're eating bad foods, if you have no, like if you're not learning, if you're not reading new material, if you're taking in the same things every day, then you're not giving yourself the opportunity to be successful. And it's kind of like putting a ball and chain on both your ankles and then trying to run underwater.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I really made sure to do in my Self-Mastery in 90 Days program is give people the tools, the information, knowledge, and then implementation process in order to make the things that you need a regular part of your life and very, very simple to perform. And if you're healthy, if you're fit, if you have energy, if you're going to be more confident, your mental health is going to be better. Well, I mean, a lot of people don't realize is your brain is a physical thing inside of your body. And there's a very famous candy bar, and their whole slogan is, you're not the same person when you're hungry. And so if that's the case, then the most obvious thing that you should be doing if you're not thinking right or not feeling right, or if you're not behaving like the person you know you want to behave like, address the most foundational things, which is there gas in the tank? Do I need an oil change? Do I have air in the tires? What's my diet look like? How much sleep am I getting? Am I learning a new thing on a regular basis? Am I exercising and giving my body the freedom to express itself? If none of those things are happening, then you're completely missing the picture.
Just summarize those into key points, just to simplify it. So you're talking diet?
Diet and nutrition.
Yep.
Physical exercise.
Yep.
Sunlight.
Yep.
Sleep. Hydration.
Yep. And then
learning. Because
So
learning
things.
cognitive processing is a physical activity. And if you're watching the same shows, listening to the same things, the same songs, going to the same places, looking at the same things, you're not exposing yourself to any different information that will help you come up with new ideas.
Keep doing what you're doing, keep getting what you got, right?
Correct. Well, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and hoping to get different results.
Yeah.
So cognitive learning, like reading a new book or trying to solve a problem or having a deep conversation.
Or watching a documentary.
Correct.
Seinfeld or,
Correct.
Yeah.
That is also part of that process.
Or a podcast opposed to a song you've heard for 1,000 times.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there are foundational principles that diet, nutrition, physical exercise, sunlight, hydration, and your learning, right? All of these things, there's probably a few more in there that I might be glossing over, but all
like
of these
therapy,
things,
fasting,
exactly,
things like that you could throw in.
These things are all included in this program, as well as the methods to make these things a part of your regular life. How to implement them, how to think about implementing them, where is the time for these things, all of that type of stuff.
Gotcha. How does someone find out more about this?
So I do have a website.
Yep.
It is prathletic.com. So they can visit the website to look at self-mastery. PR Athletic Enterprise is the Instagram as well as the YouTube channel.
Okay.
So I do have mindset included with kind of practical information. And then I can also provide a link to the program itself.
Okay.
I actually run the program through a fitness app. But in that fitness app is included your daily habits, the assigned reading, the mindset coaching, all of that type of stuff. So I can actually give you that way they can just go ahead and click that link and access that program.
So you do video.
Yes.
I was going to say you should do video, but if you're already doing it, you're a step ahead.
One of the reasons why I really appreciate you bringing me on is because it's hard for me to talk to my phone. I love conversation. I grew up with my grandparents, and so I'm a little bit more old school. I like pen and paper. I love old school conversation. And that's really where a lot of the good stuff happens. When I just put my phone up and I just try to talk to the phone about...
It's kind of forced, right?
Yeah, it really is, and it feels very inauthentic. So a lot of it's been trial and error over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate the opportunity to come on and really talk about my process and what I've been doing over the last few years.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much.
100%, brother.
I learned a lot. I got a lot out of that. I really enjoyed that conversation.
I appreciate it.
It's got me thinking, like, what am I gonna change?
Yeah.